First episode of Cam and Focus Weekly. Just a quick note here. I'm not streaming this on my YouTube channel, which is my Cam and Focus YouTube channel. I'm actually streaming it through Feast of Fandoms. So subscribe to them if you haven't. Unfortunately, we had some technical difficulties. I didn't realize that I had to put in a 24-hour request in order to stream on my channel. So that's kind of a bunch of BS, but it is what it is. We'll make the most of it, and this video will get moved over to my main channel a little bit later. But anyways, my name is Cam of Cam and Focus, and with me are a few of my homies. Go ahead and introduce yourself, starting right over here, and then we'll go clockwise.
I'm Andrew.
I'm Cody. Hi. You're not going to see me for this episode.
That's okay.
And I'm Michael. And I'm just here.
Just here for the ride. Just here
those on Feast of Fandoms know me.
Judge
But
all
if
of
you're on
us.
Cam and Focus, then you'll know me from Feast of Fandoms.
If you're here from Feast of Fandoms and you remember GNN and you remember the TikToks, then you might know me.
If you remember this one website that had this one video about that one thing that was uploaded at that one time, oh boy, oh man, that was great.
That was seen by one person. It blew up. You know, it was great.
That's literally my GNN legacy is like.
All right. Well, today we are discussing, as our commemorative film here, we're discussing the 2016 movie Gods of Egypt. Now, just a quick note here. This movie was directed by Alex Proya, who, if you don't know who that is, he directed iRobot. He directed Dark City. He directed the original Crow with Brandon Lee. So,
I would not have guessed that was his filmography.
Right. So going into this, you can kind of expect a little bit of eccentricity with his style of direction, but we'll get into that. We will definitely get into that. So everyone here has watched the movie at various times throughout this past week. What do you think about it? We'll start with you, Andrew.
Well, so I watched it today. Finished it about an hour ago as of recording, and I'll just say I'm not a fan of it. Like I whenever I watch something, I always try to find something good. I try to find, okay, I like that or whatever. I don't have anything for this movie where I went, okay. I mean, maybe there were a few shots that looked cool, but it was heavy. It reminded me kind of the Hobbit trilogy. It was like all green screen, all blue screen. They had like some
so
sets.
much.
They had some sets, for the actors, but like the city, like everything, and kind of felt like most of the actors were just there for the paycheck. They didn't really care, which I don't blame them, but it came across that way. And also the story, I felt like it was like, for the 2 hours that the movie was, it felt like rushed, almost like it wasn't, they were like trying to hit this runtime and just, I don't know. I just was not a fan of it in any way.
How about you, Cody?
I actually really liked this movie. I'm a
Yes,
huge,
we have dissenting opinions.
I'm a huge sci-fi person. Like, I like sci-fi,
Mhm.
fantasy, and I love history. So it was just fun to see like a really weird, not historically accurate depiction of Egyptian culture. Just like my one sour note for me was like, why is it all white people?
I know.
Yeah.
We were just talking
But then
about
I was
it
like,
before
oh,
this
it's 2016, duh. Because the thing is, like, Gerard Butler, like, he's gonna sell
Right.
more stuff internationally.
Mm.
That was the only thing I could think of. But like the story, I liked it. I'm like a huge, like, if it's got romance in there, you're gonna get me. That's, and I don't know. Also, Becca's like the number one simp. Like, he's literally trying to raise his girlfriend from like the grips of death,
I know.
and it's just insane. When I rewatched it, I was like, man, like, that's a lot.
You rewatched it?
Wow,
Holy
you've
crap.
rewatched this movie?
Well, because when I originally watched it was when it first came out, obviously, and then
Oh,
actually
okay.
recently this movie was re-put on either Netflix or Max.
Max,
So
that's what I
had
watched.
just watched it like maybe a month ago. So that when you had talked about it, I was like, oh well, I'll just rewatch it because I basically just watched it. And
Well, you've seen
Right,
it 2 more
so-
times than I will ever watch it. So.
How about you, Michael?
So for me, I'm kind of somewhere in the middle because I see the flaws, the various flaws, but I also there were some things I really liked about it too. So, for example, yes, it was all green screen, blue screen, whatever, but there were some shots that they did that were absolutely just stunning, and some of the visual effects I thought were really good. But then on the flip side of that, you had moments where you just went, "Did they pay them to edit this?"
Right?
It's like, were they paid?
Were they a bunch of interns?
I was just gonna say it's like they must have outsourced to like the local college or something.
Yeah. Local film
For
school.
me, it was very. Yeah, for me, it was very. I felt like the story was great. It could have just been portrayed better under better circumstances. Like
I
think
gotcha.
I'll
the
give it
idea
that.
of the story, the
Yeah.
story on paper is
Mhm.
a great. I love
Yeah.
it.
Absolutely.
But yeah, it was just.
That's true. I was a little too harsh. I did
is
like.
every
I like the idea of the movie more than the movie.
there was one point where I went, is everybody just trying to do Hamlet in another way? Like, because you have the Lion King. The Lion King is basically Hamlet. The brother kills the father and banishes the nephew, and it's the same. It's the same story. It's like, is it all just?
Oh yeah, kind of. I didn't even think about that. Yeah, you're right.
I didn't think about that either.
I didn't care
That's a
enough to
pretty
think about it.
interesting observation.
I'm picturing Andrew trying to watch this movie. Like, he's got tape on his eyelids, like forcing himself.
I almost fell asleep. I had kept checking the time.
I did. I fell asleep and then just continued it and finished it the next day.
I literally,
Like,
I put my cursor over max and I went, okay, how long is the credits? All right, 10 minutes. Okay, so that means I have 20 minutes left. I got it. I can survive.
And it's funny. I was kind of struggling to stay awake too. I mean, I'm watching this movie, and I'm thinking to myself, okay, was it worth it to everyone involved? That's what I really want to know.
Like us involved or people that had their names in the credits?
The people in the credits, the people that worked on this film.
That's what
And
I
what
was
did it? What was the budget? Like 150 million or something?
It was like 140 or something like that.
140.
So they
Good
barely
Lord.
made budget. So obviously not. And
Yeah.
probably a good thing that is
They didn't even
probably
break even
Asia,
at that point.
because
And
like how serious can you act if it's 90% green screen? Like you're literally
Right.
acting to nothing.
Yeah.
seriously, it's so hard to interact. Not just from, like interacting with characters or whatnot, but when it comes to acting, especially in a big budget production like this, there's a certain expectation that you're going to interact with more than just the actors around you. And
Right.
even half the time that they are walking, I was like, that doesn't look right.
No.
They were doing the whole, walking on a treadmill with the rolling screen going behind them.
And I wouldn't be surprised if they really did that.
Or just like pantomime walking, where they're just like kind of walking in place and moving their arms, but like they themselves aren't actually going anywhere. And I got my first taste of the CGI in one of the first actual shots of the movie, where you have this big, grand, sweeping shot of this city that everybody's in, and I'm looking at it, I'm like, did they just turn Egypt into freaking Wakanda?
I know. I was like, is this modern day Egypt? What's going on?
And then T'Challa shows up.
Yeah, I was
Yeah,
just about
right.
to bring that up. His voice threw me off, like the accent he was doing.
It took me
You know.
took me until the end of the movie when the credits rolled, and I was like, all right, who was he? And I was like, no.
It couldn't be.
Yeah,
Oh
that's
yeah,
what
they
I thought.
had
I'm
him
like, was
dolled
it?
up in like such a weird way. Like they were like trying to make
Yeah.
him look Egyptian accurate, and everyone else
Mhm.
not. That was
Right.
weird.
Yeah.
I was like, did they cast you first
Yeah.
or last?
It's like with y'all talk about Egyptian accents. Sorry, real quick. It made me think of Gladiator 2. Obviously, Denzel's Denzel. He can do what he wants. But everyone's doing a Roman accent in the movie, and then Denzel's just talking normal. And it's so funny. Like everyone is doing a Roman accent. He's like, yeah. You know, that was bad. But I mean, you get the point.
Well, I mean, it could have been worse. They could have given him the Family Guy treatment and just have him be like, "Scusi, baba da boopy."
I mean, I kind of agree though. Like, it does throw off the movie when one person is just like doing a horrible accent or like not
Yeah.
even trying.
Yeah.
But also, like,
Yeah.
how do you tell Denzel Washington, like, hey man, I'm gonna need you to do better?
Right. He already taken a supporting role, which he hasn't done since 2002. I think we can let the accent slide.
I think that one of the main downfalls of movies like this, though, is that it was almost like a fad because like we had all these like epic movies all within a span of like 4 years because Pompeii had just come out,
Pompeii,
Hercules had
2
just come
Hercules.
300 wasn't really that old yet. Immortals was out.
Yeah. The
So
second 300
they were all
came
like
out.
these grand epics. So I feel like
Yeah,
they weren't
Wrath
even-
of the
it was just
Kraken
like,
or
oh, here we go,
Wrath of
another
the
one.
Gods or whatever. Yeah.
It was so bad I don't even remember the title.
I was trying to look up who did the sets for it because you can usually tell like signature like with Ridley Scott. He likes to use hot sets, which are like small rooms that are pretty much all green screen in the back, but the front will have like a bunch of junk, so you can't really tell. And I was like, so you can always tell with him. And then, but with these, I was like, man, I can't really. There's no signature thing. So I was trying to look it up, and I couldn't find out who it was. So I was like, are you just like ashamed?
Take my name out of this movie, damn it.
Yeah. I'd want mine out.
I mean, if you're working on a movie and it's nominated for a Raspberry, I'd be kind of ashamed too. I'd be like, oh, unless you did it on purpose.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I feel like it's interesting. You had said before that we kind of got a lot of movies like this over that particular period of time, and I got to thinking about it. I'm like, damn, you're right. We had 2 Hercules movies in 1 year. Like you said, Pompeii and all that, and so I mean, everybody had just jumped on this train of like ancient Egypt, ancient Rome, ancient Greece.
Well, even when we got the remake of The Mummy, and that was it was actually Dracula first that was launching this cinematic universe. I can't remember who was trying to do it, but then once that they both flopped,
Universal
they were
was
like,
trying to.
Yeah, that's
launch
right,
the Dark
Universal.
Yeah, their dark universe. Yeah.
and it failed after 2 movies.
But they're still
Which is
doing
sad because I would
in the park,
really,
which makes no sense.
I really feel like if like a monster verse would be amazing, like the Wolfman, the Mummy, Dracula.
But they had that though. They had that back in I think the 1930s or 40s. I mean that they had
Right, but like a
crossovers with-
modernized. Hey, I will say they're doing a remake of Nosferatu,
Yes.
and I'm so psyched for that. That seems
Robert Eggers. Oh, I love the man.
Yeah, it looks amazing.
Yeah.
That I didn't,
well,
I didn't
anyway.
know about that
Well,
one.
I don't know
Yeah,
how we
Wolfman.
got on that from this, but
we went from discussing the CG of the movie to Nosferatu.
We just can't concentrate on the movie. We're just like I can't talk about it. We got to go elsewhere.
It's like, can we talk about something else, please?
But I mean, I guess I understand the point of what he was getting at, because we literally did get the Mummy remake the next year, so it was almost like the epic films were all around like Egyptian themed things.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, hell, even Transformers, did their whole like, it's something to do with the pyramids, right? Like they were built by Autobots or something.
Yeah.
Remember that?
Yeah.
Oh my god! They did the pyramids.
That was one of my.
They did.
That
they
was
did
one of my
Templar
favorites.
Knights.
That was one of my favorite of the Transformer movies for the simple fact that I will never forget being a kid in the theater watching this movie and hearing a character say, "I am directly below the enemy's scrotum," and it just had
God.
giant wrecking balls, and I'm just like, that's what we need. That's what we need in the Transformers movie. Testicles. And then they shot it with a rail. They shot it with a highly classified weapon off of a Navy ship, and I was just like, "Bitchin'."
Gotta love Michael Bay. Now let's talk a bit about the cast for this movie because
Yeah,
it's interesting. It is very interesting. What we have Gerard Butler, a native Scotsman, playing an Egyptian god, and even when he's talking in his loud, booming Egyptian god voice, you can still hear that Scottish accent.
Right.
that sounded a bit more
I don't know
Australian,
what that
mate. That sounded a bit more like he was from down under.
Yeah.
Arnar.
Crikey. Was that a scorpion?
Yeah,
Arnar.
you're gonna love that Kiwi accent. Oh, I think it's better.
Yeah, he was definitely a choice.
Yes, he was one of the choices of all time.
Yeah, I wonder how far down the list of actors they went before they found him. So do you think that he was high up the list and they were just like Scottish? That's what
Someone just watched 300 and went, get this guy in an epic.
Yeah.
Well, were there any Egyptian actors on that list, or did they go from like Brad Pitt to Tom Cruise to The Rock?
Oh
So,
my god.
I don't know.
I don't think The Rock was as big
Wasn't
into
really any Egyptian
Well,
actors that
I
made
guess
it
he
into the
was.
movie. So.
I was gonna say that the guy who ran that dress stall that the main character stole from, he was the most Egyptian looking person in that movie.
Right. We have to find out who the
absolutely.
casting director was for this film and be like, what did they tell you to do?
Okay.
You
No,
know,
I don't
Casting-
the guy
Casting
who,
director Helen Keller.
That's
But then they got the actor that they got to play Beck, who's the main character of the movie. I forget his name. His name slips my mind right now. But I'm watching and I'm like, where the hell have I seen him before? And so I go into IMDb and I'm looking up his acting credits. I'm like, okay, he's the son of Will Turner in the Pirates of the Caribbean movies. And I keep scrolling. I'm like,
that's who we, okay.
I'm like, holy crap, he was Dick Grayson in Titans.
Yep. He's also the one I knew him from first was The Giver.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Because
Well, actually,
Giver
Cam,
was-
while you were having technical difficulties, we were discussing him, and I swore up and down. I was like, while I was watching it, maybe the second time, I was like, I know him from something, and I was like, oh, he's the guy from Stardust. He is not the guy from Stardust.
No, that's
So
that's
then when I
Charlie
also
Cox.
looked up
That's
his acting
Daredevil.
credits, I was like, oh, he's in a lot of stuff. And then thinking back, I was like, was he this tan in Pirates of the Caribbean? Because I
Hell no.
had to like fully start the movie up to confirm it was him.
So for
Yeah,
me,
go.
there was a moment where I thought it was Grant Gustin, and I went, no,
Yeah.
no, it's not quite. But there was
When you look at him
like,
now, he does look like him a bit. Yeah.
a bit, yeah. But like
Yeah.
Grant Gustin, God bless him, he just his voice has that goofy edge to it that I don't
Yes.
think any amount of like dialect training will ever fix.
Right.
And I love
That's
it.
why I think
but,
he was
like,
really good for The Flash, because that was like
yes.
not
Oh, I love
to play that role.
people hate on CW's The Flash, but Grant Gustin killed it. And say what you want about the musical episodes, they're all fantastic. I don't care what anybody says.
And he will die on that hill.
There's a lot of things about this movie that, you know, kind of call into question how seriously the filmmakers were taking it, because, you know, they wanted to tell this huge, big, grand story, but then they have lines in there like, well, that didn't go as planned.
The moment that really like cemented it for me in my mind that they weren't trying to be too serious, like they weren't trying to take themselves too serious, was when they go up against the Sphinx.
Oh god.
And,
Oh my god.
and they're fighting the Sphinx, and freaking Horus is just getting his ass kicked.
Mhm.
And
Thoth,
yeah,
or however you say the name, I don't know.
how do you
Toth.
say his name?
Thoth, there you go. Thoth. Thoth was tossed.
And he's just there like, huh? Well, I wonder what it could be. And then he's just guessing, and then he guesses right, and the Sphinx basically says,
Oh crap.
like, oh bother, and then disintegrates. Like,
Yeah.
I was just like, what?
I can't even drink.
I mean, it's like
it was the look on the Sphinx's face where he just went, oh, like, well, oh.
Yeah, stuff like that was weird because like the juxtaposition of like some of the parts of the movie being so serious, and then it's like,
Yeah.
we're gonna throw in a Winnie the Pooh quote.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wonder if they got Jim Cummings to dub that one line specifically. Oh bother.
Yeah.
That's where most of the budget went.
Yeah, exactly. 140 of their $150 million budget. It's like, Jim Cummings, we really need you right now, bro. This project is
And then
not
not
the
only
same
that,
without
like pretty
you.
much every time his girlfriend
And he just
talked,
walks in and
Aquila-
goes, bother. And
Yeah.
then just walks off.
Hey, he's like, that's the best check I ever made.
Yeah. I was paid $140 for $140 million for one word.
I thought, and I forget who played Zaya. Was that her name?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Beck's girlfriend. I
Yeah.
swear, every single one of her lines were dubbed. I would put money on it. That is not her natural voice.
Right, like her mouth
Courtney-
didn't match
Yeah.
the lines.
Courtney-
I noticed that too. It was weird. Do you
It was
think
like
that
Madam
when they
Web with
recorded her the
ADR.
first time,
It was
her
like,
mic
what's
was
going on?
like-
I mean,
No, not Madam Web. Don't make me think about that. God.
I think that is better than this.
As far as a movie
And-
as a whole?
Yeah.
That's a tall.
So the only thing that I see that she has been in that I would know is Mad Max Fury Road.
Okay.
Whoa, she was in that?
Yeah, Courtney Eaton.
Yeah, Courtney Eaton.
Okay.
So
I'll have to see who
she
she-
was. Cheeto the Fragile.
Oh, right. Cheeto. Yes. Let me do a quick Google.
And all you get is a picture of a bag of Cheetos.
It's Cheeto with a D, by the way.
All
Or
right.
Cheeto.
That's just a Chinese
Mad
knockoff
Max.
brand.
But yeah,
Yeah.
she's also in Yellow Jackets. She's Lottie.
Was she in Yellow Jackets? Oh,
Yeah, she's Lottie.
okay.
Oh, see,
The thing is,
I
like,
didn't-
she's like Kate Blanchett. She looks so different in
Okay.
everything she's in. You
Yeah.
don't ever recognize her. Not that she's really been in a lot of things. I think her filmography on the wiki is probably like 6 things.
Yeah.
So I had to specify Mad Max Fury Road because when I typed in Cheeto the whatever, it was had to turn on and
Had to turn on safe search.
Save
Yeah.
filter settings.
yeah, not say NSFW.
Straight incognito mode.
Oh man.
But in the line of like unserious quotes from the movie, basically every time Horace's girlfriend said anything, it was just like, I'm sassy.
Yeah.
Like one of the quotes when I was looking stuff up
Do not
earlier
despair, my
was
love. Horace will save us all.
You know she's from Daredevil. It took me a minute to recognize her. She's Elektra in Daredevil. If y'all have seen
Really?
it, any of y'all have seen that.
Oh
What a
yeah,
career
the
choice.
Netflix one. Yes, that is her. That's funny.
Mhm. Because that was
I
another
don't
one.
know.
I was like, who is this? Why do I know her?
I haven't seen I haven't seen much of Netflix's Daredevil, so
It's on Disney Plus now, so if you got time.
Yeah,
yeah.
it's
I've watched
actually
all
really
of
good.
season 1, and season 1 is fantastic.
Mhm.
It was such an improvement over the movie.
Yeah.
Such an improvement.
Yeah.
What are you trying to say? Ben Affleck wasn't a good Daredevil?
No, definitely not that.
Well,
Next you're gonna
here's
say
the
he
thing,
wasn't
though.
Next you're gonna say he wasn't a good Batman either.
Them's fighting words.
Uh-oh.
I mean, we saw him as Batman for like 8 seconds, so can I really judge that?
Fair.
Yeah, that's true.
Oh.
Next,
I
you're
will
going to say
say-
he's a bad Bruce Wayne.
To be fair, the Daredevil movie was kind of a product of its time, you know. But
True,
like early
true.
2000s, like 90s and early 2000s comic book films were like campy as all hell. Like
Yeah, I was just thinking that too. Like super
Listen,
camp.
Blade. That's all I'm gonna say.
campy as all hell. I mean, don't get
Yeah.
me wrong, but Blade is a good movie. But whenever your first fight scene has a shot of Blade doing this,
Yeah.
I'm just like product of its time. Now, granted, it's darker and more violent than your average
Yeah.
comic book film at the time, but still, I mean, it had that late '90s
Okay.
flavor to it.
Yeah.
I'm
Oh yeah,
sitting
they're
here-
dancing in like a blood shower. That's like campy as hell.
Yeah. I
I'm
was
sitting.
like, whoa.
I'm sitting here trying to like think of counter arguments, and my first thought was, "Oh, X-Men," and all I could think about was, "Do you know what happens when a frog gets struck by lightning?" The same.
What do they call you? Wheels?
Oh god. Yeah.
Hey,
that movie
I
was
love
so
X-Men.
camp.
Don't talk on that.
I
Oh,
know.
no,
I
it's-
the original X-Men.
I love
I'm
X-Men
kidding.
too. It was
It's great.
just
No, I know.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Actually, that's
Oh.
funny. If Gods of Egypt was made about 10 years earlier, it would have been
It would have been perfect.
because it was.
Oh,
it was
dude, for
the level
sure.
of like random camp amid serious, like dead
Yeah.
serious.
And what's
You would've
funny
been like,
is
yeah.
that if it had come out around that time, not only would it have fit better within the zeitgeist tonally,
Mhm.
but if you guys remember the fight scene between Horus and those like Minotaur looking guys
Oh, yeah.
on the waterfall, you had those. Like the constantly rotating camera and those small like 2 seconds of
cuts.
slow-mo here and there.
Yeah. And the
Uh,
fast cuts of like, it's like every move, it's like quick cut,
Every movement had a cut.
Yeah.
Not one instance of action looked believable.
which helped because I was starting to doze off and it's like my screen's flashing and I'm like, I should pay attention.
Simulation.
Oh,
What's this?
yeah. It caught my attention again.
Coco Melon.
Usually when that happens during action scenes, it means the set is very small. Because like with epics, they usually use giant rooms, like Marvel does it, Lord of the Rings did it. But this,
Right.
I noticed when I was rewatching it, I rewound it a couple of times, and I was like, "Why is it cutting every 3 seconds?" Because that, for how old the movie is now, that wasn't really that regular of them to do that. But like you just said, it would. Like with the snakes, he was like, "Oh, let's run," and it immediately turned the camera. I was like, "What is happening?" Like you couldn't even see Gerard
Yeah.
Butler's response.
Yeah, well, I mean, here's the thing, about action as you're filming it. And you're absolutely right. It does have a lot to do with the size of the set, but it also has to do with how committed the actor is to the stunt work. You have actors like Keanu Reeves, who his entire career has been physical acting. Between The Matrix, 47 Ronin, John Wick, Constantine.
Bill and Ted.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
well, besides that, I mean, he throws himself into the physical aspect of his films, and he trains for months. He does most of the stunt work himself. But then you have movies like Gods of Egypt, or to a much greater degree, movies like Taken, Columbiana, like all those super high octane action films where 4 seconds of a fight scene is divided up into 12 cuts. Well, it has a lot to do with the fact that the actor just isn't doing the work. A lot of that editing is used to hide a stunt
Mhm.
double. It's either
Yeah.
used to hide a stunt double, or it's used to hide poor choreography,
Mhm.
or poor execution of choreography, should say. Like, I don't know if you guys have seen the second Bourne movie, The Bourne Supremacy.
I don't think I have.
I don't think
Yeah.
I've seen any
I
of the
believe that's the
Jason
only one
Bourne
I haven't
movies.
seen.
So in the Bourne Supremacy, there's a fight scene between Jason Bourne and another assassin type dude. They're inside his house, and as you watch that, the camera doesn't quite cut away for every impact, but it goes out of frame for every impact. There's a lot of shaky cam where the impacts just aren't in frame, and you can see that it's Matt Damon doing the work. But again, like you said, Cody, because of the size of the set, they had to use that to give the action more energy than it really had. Because when you're in such a cramped environment, and there's only so many ways that you can move that look good.
Right. Well, not only that, they got cast and crew they're hiding. They've got
Yeah.
equipment that shouldn't be on screen. So the smaller the set is and the more stuff you have in the way. But no, you're absolutely right. I mean, and Gerard Butler, he's getting up there in age. So I'm sure for half of that, he was like, no.
He's in his mid-50s now, I think.
So,
I'm pretty sure, yeah.
exactly. So there's no way. And especially like all the scenes with Jeffrey Rush, who played Ra, the sun god.
Yeah.
You're gonna tell me that old man was doing any of that? No.
No.
Right.
I mean, I
Doing a
think he could have.
backflip,
I think he did. I think he did a lot of that himself. You know, the shooting
But
of
if you go back and look, almost
Definitely
every
not a
time he's doing that,
sandworm.
it's from behind. So there's definitely
It's
a
like
body
Ian
double.
McDermott in Revenge of the Sith. Did he really do that twirl in the lightsaber fight?
But anytime the actor does something, make sure you film from behind, because it could be any bald guy.
I left it. Yeah. It's like
Well,
I
I'm a
saw this
cat,
video.
though.
It was like when the film has a low budget, and it was like a running scene, and it's this guy going to jump over a fence, and it's like they cut, and then it's like
That's
the
Taken
obvious
3.
stunt double. Yeah, and then when he lands down, then it's back. It cuts, and it's back to the actor running. It's so funny.
So that scene is notorious for the entire Taken franchise, because that's the
Mhm.
one scene that everybody jumps to when they talk about bad editing. You know, because it's like you said, Liam Neeson is hopping over a fence, but hopping over a fence is divided up into 12 cuts.
You see it from the front, from the side, from the back, all while he's doing one jump.
Like there's 4 shots of just him swinging the leg over the thing. Oh my god, I hate that so much. I really
Yeah.
hope Olivier Megaton never makes another film in his life.
Yeah. Oh man. Whew.
Now there's something that I wanted to bring up as far as the acting of the movie. Now, when it comes to portraying or conveying a sense of drama, it's not just on the part of the actor. It also has a lot to do with the director and what they're directing the actor to do. There's one scene that really stood out to me that it just completely knocked down any hope that I had for this movie. And it was the scene where Beck and Zaya are escaping from Zaya's slave master or whatever he is. And he shoots her in the chest with the arrow. And there is no reaction from Beck at all.
He just like takes the arrow out. It's like, oh.
It's like that. This is the woman you love. This is the love of your life who just got
He
skewered
goes to
with
fight
an
for her.
arrow.
Yeah.
That was the point when I remembered he was in The Giver. I was like, oh yeah. I was like, you're giving nothing.
Not one tear. Like the director couldn't yell
He looks kind of
cut.
inconvenienced.
He said, like the director couldn't yell cut and say, okay, come over here. Let me just put some Visine in your eyes so that way you can, it looks like you've been
something.
crying.
Yeah.
Like you're gonna make your whole life's mission to save this woman, but when she died, you were like, oh.
Uh-oh. Oh well.
Anyway.
Yeah. So anyway,
Gee whiz.
darn, I'm single.
Ah, shucks. Well, that was some time on Match.com wasted.
But honestly, it was just weird. The problem with that specific actor, though, is he delivers lines excellently, but his facial expressions are not good.
They
Yeah.
they definitely
why they
tend
put
to
the
not
mask
match
on
what
him.
he's saying.
That's why they put a mask on him for the DC show, because they were like,
Yeah.
"Look, you
Well,
suck at this."
half the time he's talking, it looks like he's trying not to laugh.
Maybe.
And in his head, he's just like, "I'm in this piece of shit movie."
Well, I think a lot of this stems from the high use of the blue screen or green screen.
Yeah.
You're not in a natural environment. I think it probably felt very awkward acting in this movie, and probably threw the senses off of what, I don't know, because it was a lot of it was just like, I have to go save her.
And I agree with that, except when I looked up his credits, almost all of his previous movies were big, mostly green screen movies, like The Giver, Oculus, and then the next year he was in Dead Men Tell No Tales, and he wasn't like weird and awkward. So I feel like the director just was like, go with it, you know, just giving them nothing to go with, and then these people were just like fumbling because there's nothing to work with.
The director of this film was the biggest "I'm just here for a paycheck" person in the entire.
I'm just here so I don't get fined.
Yeah, he was just like, he's like sitting there, he's yelling action. You know, they go through the scene. He's looking on his phone, playing
Flappy Bird.
Fucking Candy Crush Saga or some shit, and his assistant director is going, "Hey, scene's over. Oh, cut! Yeah, good job, everybody."
It looks like a home movie, like that I would shoot with my sisters. It's like I'm just holding the camera, and I'm like, "All right, action, good enough, cut."
It almost makes me feel like he had some sort of contract with Lionsgate that he just had to fulfill. So he was like,
he signed a 5-film deal, and this was the 5th one. Yeah.
All right, guys, we're going to put
sand
sand here. We're going to put sand here, and you're going to react to it, by God.
Literally, I mean, like, what do you? The whole middle of the movie is just them out in the desert. So they're like,
and the desert looks so bad. Oh my gosh,
it's like
it was so funny.
So there are some shots where they are actually in a desert, but I read that they filmed out in Australia because filming in the Sahara was too dangerous. Okay, so forget the Sahara. You want to film out in Australia? They've got scorpions.
Right.
The size of your face.
They've got some of the deadliest things in the world in Australia. I mean, gee,
but Australia.
Like Australians.
In the desert.
Oh my God.
But the thing with filming in Australia, though, it's desert everywhere. You go right out of town, it's desert. So it's probably just easier for them. Whereas like in the Sahara, you like have to go way out in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
But
I suppose so. But the movie's called Gods of Egypt, not Gods Down Under. God damn it!
I know, but I
Go to Egypt.
Australia. Almost a lot of the actors are Australian as well, and the director's Australian. So what up with that?
And they're filming an Egyptian movie. This just makes sense, just fits.
Yeah, they went for an Egyptian movie, but got nothing historically accurate, and like not even from an ancient Egyptian standpoint. I'm just talking about. I'm talking about like
just
in
Egyptian
general.
things. Yeah.
Well, because it's like, when Horace and Beck are out in the desert and they get attacked by those two giant snakes with the Valkyrie looking ladies riding them. Horace is like, they brought their pets, and Beck is like, those aren't pets. Cats are pets. It's like, no, they're not. Not in ancient Egypt.
Right. They're food. So,
they're worshipped is what they are.
Oh, that's true. You know what it made me think of? It's like when you're doing a math problem and you start with the same equation as everyone else, and then you get like negative 100 something and everyone else is like 35. So they did a math problem with the actors, director, and they got ancient Egypt. And it was like, wait, that doesn't make sense.
It's like, okay, so we have to make a movie that has Spartans, Knight Templars, Crusaders,
Australians.
Exactly. They pick up their magic 8-ball, shake it up and look at it. Ancient Egypt. God damn it.
Yeah. Like I'm trying to think. Someone watched. I don't know what the trailers looked like, but like someone watched the trailer and went, "I want to go see that in the theater." You know,
I remember
you get
that
there and you're-
the Super Bowl that year they had a really long trailer, and that was like the
Hmm.
only one I saw. But the way they cut it, it was pretty much all the action scenes. So you're
Oh,
thinking
okay.
like, oh, this is gonna be lit. And then
Yeah,
you gotta go
okay, I
see
get
it,
that,
and it's
yeah.
like, oh,
I just paid $8 to come watch this. Oh god.
$8 for a movie ticket. God damn it! I missed the 2010s.
That's how much it is at my
Right?
theater. That's why I was.
what?
God, me to,
I think it was like $20 for me to go see a movie the other day. Just me.
Well,
I
that's
mean, if
yeah.
I'm
If
gonna-
I get like a popcorn and a drink, then it's that. Yeah.
yeah.
No, I didn't get anything. That was just the ticket.
Oh
It
geez.
was 18 plus whatever the fee was because they charge you for ordering online. now,
Oh,
which is
yeah.
stupid.
Sounds like you
Yeah.
should just pay to be a member, pay like for the year, and then get free. Like, listen, I did that for like a year. I was on what is it? A-list for is that not Fandango?
AMC.
Yeah, right. AMC, thank you. Yeah, I was on AMC's A-list for a year. I paid for a year, and I got what was it, like 3 free movies every week or something
Nice.
like that. Yeah, it's like it pays for itself if you go to the like. If I'm like, all right,
Yeah.
I'm gonna go to 3 movies. I wanted to do that when they did the Lord of the Rings extended
Oh,
director's
yeah.
cut in the theaters. I was like, I'm gonna go to all 3 of them. I'm gonna go on like my day off and go and watch all 3 in one day, and just go for and like. And then I found out that they were only doing them 1 on each day, 1 showing, and I'm like, you bastards.
Okay, so here's a question for you then, Michael. Of those 3, if you were only able to go to one of those movies on one day,
Return
which
of the
would
King.
it be? Return of the King.
Yes, 100%. I agree.
End of Return of the King makes me cry 100%
Yes.
of the time.
I
Every
bawl
time.
my eyes
When,
out.
when Aragorn gets to the hobbits and says, "My friends, you bow for no one," and everybody bows down to the hobbits, I'm like bawling my eyes out because I know what they've been through to get there.
When I tell you I never cry at movies ever, every time I watch the trilogy and it gets that scene, I bawl my eyes out completely. You would think a family member just died if you were watching me. And I'm like, no, it's the Hobbit, you know.
So I think I mentioned earlier, I just finished the Lord of the Rings audiobooks, which I have the ones narrated by Andy Serkis. Absolutely
Nice.
fantastic. It is when Gollum finally comes in the books, which isn't until Return of the King, but when he finally does show up, it's like you feel vindicated because you've waited and you've waited, and then suddenly Andy Serkis is doing his Gollum voice on an audiobook, and you're just like,
Oh,
perfect. He also
I
does
could
a
die
really-
happily now.
He actually does a very, very, very good job portraying all the other voices as well.
Mhm.
Because what he did with them, and I'm kind of going off on a tangent here, and I'm sorry, but he basically got them as close to the movies as he could without being a complete. So it was like you knew when Gandalf was talking, you knew when Sam was talking, you knew when Pippin was talking because he puts on a bit of an Irish accent, you know, like he did a little Billy Boyd.
Mhm.
You know, so like it was really cool. But I was laughing. The whole point of this, I was laughing with my brother the other day because I was listening to the audiobook. I'm on Return of the King, and I look at it, and I take a screenshot of how much time is left in the book, like 3.5 hours. And I send it to my brother, and I go, so for context, the ring has been destroyed. They're back in the Shire. They've already kicked Saruman and Wormtongue out of the Shire. Sam and Rosie are married and have their first kid and living with Frodo. I'm like, why is there still 3 hours left to this book?
Appendices.
And then no, that's exactly what it is. I went and looked at because I was on the chapter was the Grey Haven, so I'm like, unless they're gonna describe the whole voyage to the Grey Havens, I don't. Which ironically they did, but anyway. So I go and I look at the chapters, and the next it's like got 15 minutes left in this chapter, and then after that is appendices, 3 hours and 20 minutes. I went,
Oh, poor Andy Serkis.
I bought the illustrated edition of Lord of the Rings by Tolkien. That thing is like this thick. I'm not even kidding. Because it's all 3 books in one. I was like, my gosh, this is a brick. You could build a house out of these books. I mean, I ain't complaining though.
And Cam, if you're gonna say poor Andy Serkis in that regard, remember he did all 3 Lord of the Rings, The Hobbit, and The Silmarillion.
Oh God.
Andy Serkis had to read The Silmarillion in audiobook form.
I would rather listen to him read the Silmarillion than listen to him read the Lord of the Rings dictionary.
Well, hold on. First of all, the appendices at the end of Return of the King.
There's also stories.
I would say it's basically the history of the kings from Elisar to Aragorn.
I also like there's a there's like a vocabulary, and there's a way in there, and you can like learn some Elvish, and so there's reasons to read it.
Yeah.
Anyways, what are we talking about tonight again? I completely forgot.
Gods of Egypt. Andrew,
That's right.
remember.
That's right.
Yeah. Well, when the movie opened up with the narration with him saying something along the lines of "This isn't the story that you know," I was like, "Oh God!"
When the narrator identified himself as Beck, I was like, okay, so he's not going to die then. At no point is he in danger of dying.
Oh, I know. I hate when they do that. Because I was like, oh, well, I guess I know you're going to live through everything.
Yeah, it's like, he even dies in the movie, and I'm just like, he's not dead. He can't be dead. He's narrating this fucking movie,
Yeah. And there's no emotion there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's
trying to set up a new franchise.
What's that?
They were trying to set up a new franchise. So they set up all this lore.
You know what they were trying to do?
So hard.
They were trying to do a Michael Bay movie where you think the main characters died and then they flinch at the end or open their eyes, and then directed by Michael Bay. Yeah, I love that trend. It's so funny. Yeah, so there you go.
R.I.P. to one of the goats.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, see, I know what you meant by goat, but when you said that, the first thing that popped into my head were those freaking screaming goats from Thor 3.
Yes.
Love and Thunder, you mean?
Yes.
Yeah.
And ironically, that's exactly how I felt watching this movie. Every scene, I'm just like, ah!
I don't know how I watched this movie in one sitting. I didn't pause it. I was like, I'm not taking longer than 2 hours to watch.
I don't know how I watched it sober.
See,
I had to do that.
My problem. I didn't try to do it sober the first time. That's why I fell asleep.
Yeah,
I fell asleep because I was watching in my bed, and I made that mistake.
Just sitting there with a glass of brandy in your hand, just like this. That's not how it is back then.
Okay, so another key gripe that I have in this movie. I'm going to try and stay focused on the subject matter. One of the key gripes I had with this movie, and tell me if you guys agree with this, the animal forms being basically like mech suits.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Like
when it first happened, I was like, really?
I was like, why are they made of metal? Like, to me, I would be much more impressed if I saw a 10-foot tall human being turn into a fucking, 10-foot tall giant alligator or giant eagle or, something like. It turns into something metal. I'm just like, that's kind of cool, but.
Right.
Yeah,
when he's narrating in the beginning, he even says they're horrifying beasts. They never said that they're look like metal, because he even describes they bleed gold. So you're going to describe everything but that they turn into Transformers?
Rise of the Beasts.
Oh gosh.
No. Transformers: Rise of the Gods.
Oh my gosh.
It just ties
That's the
in.
next movie
It just
coming
ties
up.
into that one. It just ties into that one Transformers movie where the pyramid. They built the pyramids to resurrect their gods or whatever the hell they were doing in that movie. I don't even
See,
remember.
Michael Bay, the Transformers movies, once you get past the original trilogy of it, just turn your brain off, and they're a lot of fun.
I
And
will
you're like,
say,
boom, boom, boom. You know.
I will say, I did not like that they did 3 movies with Shia LaBeouf and then just said, "Fuck you." I really like. Call me what you will. I have a lot of nostalgia for the Shia LaBeouf Transformer movies. But out of the ones that have happened since then, I would have to say my favorite one is Rise of the Beasts. I think that was.
If we can throw a Bumblebee in there, that'd be mine.
Yeah, Bumblebee was good. I liked it.
And see, with all this talk about Transformers, I kind of want to go back to the Egyptian one and see if there's like a mid or post credit scene where they walk into a pyramid and there's a picture of freaking Gerard Butler or a statue of Gerard Butler there.
What I've done.
Yeah.
Oh God!
And they just look at the camera dramatically, like. Dun, dun, dun.
You thought I was dead, but my story has just begun.
It all started the day Horus ripped my wings off.
Yeah. Oh,
and so speaking of which, that was like the lamest villain like downfall. He was defeated.
yeah.
He was defeated because he fell a long way.
Yes. Yeah. there was very little fight.
These two, animal mechs are, clashing against each other and flying around and doing their thing. But what decides the fight is he falls from a high distance.
It's like there's this one Bond film. Oh, it's Roger Moore's last Bond film where Christopher Walken is the Bond villain, and they're fighting, I think, on like a bridge or a hot air balloon. And yeah, it's like that. There's like a little fight, and then he just falls and dies. I'm like, I just spent 2 something hours watching this for that to happen.
Meanwhile, John Mayer's in the corner going, "Gravity."
Oh my God.
I can say I'm enjoying this conversation way more than I did the movie, which is a low bar, but
see now, I kind of want to take all the footage of Horus and Set and like mash it all together over a Colby Kylet song. I think I'm falling for you.
Oh God.
oh man.
And
at the end of this, we're not going to worry about copyright. We're going to play that Michael Bay song at the end. When you think the live stream's ended.
All right. So we are getting close to wrapping up here. Does anybody have any closing thoughts about this movie?
I think I was a little harsh on it at the beginning because I had just finished it. So there was, it was
the wound was still fresh.
Yeah.
An hour has elapsed and it has sufficed.
The more I think about it, I do like the idea of this movie more than the actual movie itself, which is pretty common.
Right.
I mean, that does happen where it's on paper, it's great, but the execution was just not there. And it comes across on screen of not caring or whatever. And it's just like, it's tough to watch. I don't think this is something I'll be planning on revisiting anytime soon, if that. I hadn't heard of this movie until doing this show. So I may not have ever seen it if it weren't for this. So I guess I'm thankful for that. But
I'm sorry.
I don't plan on going on Amazon and seeing, oh, Blu-ray $5. All right, there you go.
Also, can I just say, Cam, that absolute just like hobgoblin look you got on your face when he mentioned that if it weren't for this show, he would have never seen that was priceless. And we need to like, because first of all, that is evil. the fact that you're like, yes, my minions.
See that right
Watch
there? That's our video
movies for
thumbnail.
That's probably true though. Like I didn't even know this movie existed until Cam was like, "Yeah, Gods of Egypt." I'm like, "Yes, Gods of Egypt. Yes, there you go. Great pick."
I remember hearing about this movie, but I've never seen it before now. You know, it was kind of like it was one of those movies that I just kind of like associated with like Wrath of the Gods, though, you know, that era of movies, or Wrath of the Titans and all that. So like I just remember thinking like, oh, that sounds like a cool movie, and then I just never watched it until about a week ago.
And you'll never get that time back.
It's nice whenever I can open people up to new things.
Yeah,
Oh,
2 hours of my life, I'll struggle to get back. You know, just
I will devise new methods of torture.
I will say this though, it's not the worst movie I've ever seen. So
No,
I
not by
can
a long
name.
shot.
I mean, it's there's quality there. It's poor, but you know, I mean, it's there. It's a movie. You know, I mean, the actors got paid. You know, so that's good. I don't really know what I can say.
We fucking hope they did.
Yeah.
No money laundering here. Look somewhere else, please.
Because honestly, on screen, I don't see it. I mean, even though it's the full movie CGI, I don't think it costs that much to do it.
No, that's what I'm saying. Where
Oh.
did the money go?
Gerard
It's like
Butler.
dial check.
Gerard Butler. It went to Gerard Butler's abs, okay?
He could have easily been paid. Well, you know, he could have. Well, I was going to say the box office wasn't well. I was going to say, what if he was like 10 or 20 million and then 10% of whatever the box office? That would have been like not
He's
that much
not
money.
getting any royalties for this movie.
Yeah. Yeah. I bet this is the kind of movie in his filmography he's completely forgot he's done. Like if you were to interview him with like, remember Gods of Egypt? He would be like, what? You know?
I say I'm picturing Al Pacino at the end of what the hell is the name of that movie where Adam Sandler plays twins?
Jack and Jill.
Jack and Jill. Where Al Pacino sees the Dunkin' Donuts commercial he was in, and he looks over, he's like, burn this. Burn every copy of this.
Oh, man.
So apparently
That
there
movie
is,
rough.
from what I can gather from like a 60-second Google scrub, there's not much information given about how much Gerard Butler was paid for this movie.
Yeah, I couldn't find anything about
The experience. He gets the experience. He was paid in
It's-
experience.
Literally, the AI overview on Google says there isn't much information about how much Gerard Butler was paid for his role in Gods of Egypt. But
The
here's
director's
some
like, I'll
related
pay you an
information.
exposure. So, and see, you can look at that as Gerard Butler being paid way too much or way too little. Because
Right.
with this movie, it
There's
can go
no
either
middle-
way.
There's no middle ground here. It's either
No.
way too little or way too much.
It's either a third of the budget or it was like 5 million or something. I don't know. He
Well,
easily could have gotten like 40, 50 million for this. I mean, I wouldn't be shocked.
Okay, he's not The Rock, all right? Yeah,
Man.
yeah, maybe we'll do Red One on this channel at some point in the future.
So, speaking of in the future, are we ever? Andrew
We
just
offended
disappeared.
Andrew.
Okay,
I can only
so
take
are
so
we-
much.
Are we planning on doing any animated movies? Because I have some suggestions.
And any what movies? I'm sorry, you cut out like right at that word.
Any animated movies?
Animated movies. Yeah, I am open to anything. And
Cam
everything.
thought he said any adult movies and Cam was like,
So-
Hot adult
so-
summer.
yeah. There's this one show that I really loved. It was called Girls Gone Wild. You ever seen it?
But no, I was thinking the first 3 films that DreamWorks came out with.
Ooh.
Oh,
So that would be Ants, Prince of
Love it.
Egypt,
yeah.
and The Road to El Dorado.
Gotcha.
I love
okay.
all three of those movies.
All three
Yeah,
of those movies
so-
are fantastic.
So drop those in the group chat, and I'll add them to my list because my list is growing. I'm still adding
Right.
stuff to it. So
We've already got the next year planned, so this will be year 2.
exactly. All right. Well, that'll do it for the, first episode of Cam and Focus Weekly. I think we did good. I think we killed it.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you guys so much for joining me. This was a lot of fun. And
Most
to everybody who's watched and tuned in, thank you guys very much. We'll be doing this every Sunday, right around 9:00. We had some technical difficulties today, so we ended up pushing it out a little further than I would have liked. But every Sunday at 9:00, you can tune back in here for more movie discussions. Like and subscribe, all that jazz. I'm not an influencer. I don't know that lingo. But
Send me some cash.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, if you subscribe to my Patreon, have a good night, everybody. We'll see you next week.